So I scored a perfect 170 out of 170 in my GRE Quant section. And in this video, I'm going to talk about how I did it. I'm not going to advise you to do anything that I have not tried and tested myself. So rest assured, everything that I'm going to talk about in this video is going to be completely genuine. Primarily, in this video, I'm going to talk about the exam format and the type of questions that are being asked, which resources to use. Most of them are free. I'm going to share some amazing resources, the best test-taking strategies, and how you can prepare for this exam efficiently and how much time you need to prepare for it. As always, you can use the timestamps below to skip to any section that you want to watch. I regularly hold live Q&A sessions with students and answer their questions. I'm also planning an SOP writing session pretty soon, so if you want to stay on top of my schedule, you can either subscribe to this channel, join my mailing list, or do both. First of all, let's talk why you need to score high on your GRE Quant section. If you are regularly watching my video series, you already know that I'm not a big fan of correlating your GRE score with your success in the whole application process. But if I were to still guess, I would probably guess that GRE Quant probably has more weightage in your overall application than the verbal section, especially for engineering courses. Most of the questions asked on your GRE Quant are somewhere between grade 8 to 10 level, which is early to middle high school. And nothing is too complicated. Whatever is being asked is pretty simple, and you can probably answer most of the questions within like 20 to 30 seconds. So you have to go in with the mindset that you can solve everything. You already know everything. You have spent so many years practicing everything. And remember, confidence is the key here. So if you go in with the right mindset, you can definitely ace this exam. If you look at the statistics released by ETS, you can see that even if you get a perfect 170 out of 170 in your GRE Quant, you are still in the 96th percentile. This means that a lot of students score the perfect 170 out of 170 on their Quant section. If you look at the statistics again, you can find out by simple mathematics that about 65,000 students scored 170 on their GRE Quant last year. If we go down further, just 3 points. So now, if you scored 167 out of 170, you are all the way down in the 89th percentile, which means you are in the same boat as 180,000 other students. This means that if you want to stay on top of your complete profile and your applications, it is essential that you score as high as possible on your GRE Quant section. And I know this can be really unnerving, but I promise if you watch this video till the end, you will feel much more confident about your chances. And I'm going to share some tips and tricks that I use personally that can really boost your overall score. Now let's talk about the structure of the exam. The exam consists of 2 GRE Quant sections. Each section contains 20 questions that you need to answer within 35 minutes each. So you get total 70 minutes to solve about 40 quant problems. The exam uses something called adaptive difficulty, which means that in your first section, if you answer a majority of your questions correctly, like almost all of questions correctly, your next section is going to be more difficult than the previous section. If you answer very few questions correctly, your next section is going to be easier than the first section. And if you answer somewhere in between the two, your next section is going to be medium or similar difficulty as your first section. So it is essential that you try to answer as many questions as possible in your first section, because that determines what difficulty your second section is going to be. And if your second section is easier, some websites or some resources say that your final score is kind of capped. So if you get an easy or medium difficulty second section, then you might not be able to score the perfect 170 out of 170. As I said, there are a lot of websites that show you how many questions you should answer correctly to get what score. They show all sorts of correlations, all sorts of formulae, probably some of them without any proof, just their own guesswork. And I advise students against going through all such resources, because I don't think it really helps you. It only increases anxiety in a lot of students. And I think our goal should be to answer as many questions as possible, right? Because you never know. You look at a website and the website says, oh, if you answer like 18 questions correctly, you get 170, but we do not know. There's no proof for that. So I don't know how that will make you feel any better about your chances. Your goal should always be to try to answer as many questions as possible correctly. And that's it. So I advise students to avoid looking at like such things that just increase their anxiety levels. Now, GRE Quant has 4 types of questions. First one is called quantitative comparison, which is you have 2 quantities. You have to find out which is greater, or maybe both are equal, or maybe you don't have enough information to determine the relationship. Second type of questions are multiple choice questions with a single correct answer. Third type of questions are multiple choice questions with one or more correct answers. And fourth type of questions are numeric entry, in which you have like just enter a number from I think 0 to 9. To know more about all these questions, you can go to the link that I have shared below. Now let's talk about the resources that you can use. There are a lot of free and amazing resources that are available all over the web. Now I know it's very difficult to find out which resources are the best, but I'm going to suggest some resources that I made use of, and I'm like kind of biased, and I think they are really like super impactful in your whole preparation process. The first one is called Magoosh GRE Math Cheat Sheet. So this is basically a PDF file in which they share like all sorts of like formulas from all the topics that GRE Quant covers. And you can like really quickly go through this whole PDF and you can kind of refresh your memories, because I think all of us have gone through like a middle to upper kind of like early that whole high school phase, and we have already studied these topics. So I think if you can find like something which is like really quick and you can refresh your memory like within a few minutes, it's an amazing resource. And I think Magoosh GRE, a math cheat sheet, is one such resource, and I highly recommend it. Magoosh also has a series of blogs and videos on their YouTube channel, which I'm a big fan of. You know, if you watch a video and you watch someone going through an exam, you'll know how to efficiently tackle the test yourself. So I highly recommend them. I have linked both of these in my description below. You can check them out. Second is the official math review from ETS. This is also like a very small book, PDF-ish type of resource that you can really quickly go through and you can refresh your entire memory. Since ETS are the guys who make the GRE Quant, it's essential that you go through the resources that they have put out themselves. And this is again completely free, so you should definitely make use of this, and I have also linked this in my description. Third resource is Khan Academy. I mean, if you still do not know what Khan Academy is, then come on, what you are doing on the internet. They are so amazing that ETS has actually linked their videos on their website, and like basically linked videos for every topic, which you can go and you can check them out. I have linked ETS's website in my description. You should definitely go through it. For my GRE prep, the only thing that I paid for was the Manhattan Prep 5-pound book of GRE practice problems. This book is so amazing that it has questions from all the topics that GRE covers. In fact, it also has a higher difficulty level that you can go through, and like this probably contains problems that do not typically get asked on a GRE Quant, but this section helps you build confidence. And I cannot emphasize like how much you require, like how much practice is required throughout the whole process. I like highly recommend this book. It's like about 1,000 rupees when I bought it, and you should like sit with this book almost every day during your preparation and do as many problems as possible. This is like an amazing resource. On the back side of the book, they actually show you step by step how they solve every problem, not just for quant but also for verbal. And it's essential, you know what the nitty-gritty and what the little tips and tricks are of solving these problems that can really help you optimize and be more efficient during your test. Now let's talk about what the best test taking strategy should be. A lot of people ask me this question, and if you look online, people have talked about this whole old slow and steady method, which is you work slowly through every problem and then you work your way through the whole exam step by step, problem by problem. I kind of disagree with this because I feel that you might get stuck on a particular problem and then you might waste a lot of time, you might develop anxiety, lose confidence, and then you kind of stumble across all the other questions throughout the whole test and you end up scoring way lower than what you should have. So I'm not a big fan of this technique because I feel that being confident is the key to success in this whole exam. So I feel that if you're following any technique that kind of makes you lose or might make you lose confidence throughout the whole process, you should probably avoid it. Now this is the technique that worked for me, and I suggest this to so many students, and they have used this to really boost their score. I call it the triple scan strategy. In the first scan, you go through all the problems really quickly and you find out the problems that you can solve almost instantly. By this time you have practiced a lot and you develop that sixth sense. You can like now look at a problem and you can tell that if you can solve this really quickly or not. If you can solve a problem really quickly, you should solve it during the scan. If not, you should just leave it and move on to other problems. In the second scan, you come back to all the problems that you skipped in your first scan. Now, since you have already solved a large portion of the problems on the test, because a lot of problems can be solved really quickly on this exam, you know how much time is left and you can allocate time more judiciously to every problem and you won't get anxious while doing this whole exam. So in the second scan, solve all the problems that you skipped in your first scan, but you should also leave at least 10 to 12 minutes for the third scan. Now, in your third scan, you solve each problem again. I know this is a lot, but this is something that can help you get over silly mistakes. So I'm not saying that you solve every problem again or like write all the equations, do all the calculations. I'm basically saying that you go through every problem mentally, or just follow your approach again and make sure that everything is okay and your answer actually makes sense. A lot of times while my own preparation, I found out that during this third scan, I was able to kind of eliminate a lot of silly mistakes that I had done in my first and the second scans. So this is, in my opinion, the most important stage of this whole process. The better you execute it, the higher your score is going to be. Now, one special trick I'm going to share, which is you should always keep it simple. The problems asked on your GRE Quant are very simple and very basic. So you need to avoid overthinking. The first approach that comes to your mind while you go through the question is probably going to be the correct approach. So just avoid overthinking and go with the first thing that comes to your mind, because this exam is very basic. There are no trick questions here. So we have gone through everything, but the most important question now, how do I prepare for this exam? So GRE is all about preparation and being efficient with your time. The more you practice, the more familiar you become with the exam format, types of questions, and how to tackle them. There can be several ways to solve a question, but the more you practice, there's something that I call the GRE way. So basically the GRE way is something which is very basic, but it helps you get to the answer really quickly and efficiently. And this way depends from person to person, and you have to find whatever method works best for you. So the more you practice, the more you will acclimate yourself with the whole GRE way of solving questions. If you go online, a lot of people suggest you prepare for like 300-400 hours. You spend like 3, 4, 5 months to prepare for GRE. I kind of disagree with that. I think you should not waste more than 20, 25, maybe a month preparing for GRE. It's just not worth it. The whole idea that if you score really high on your GRE, it will somehow magically make up for a mediocre profile. This whole notion is completely unfounded. So I don't know how GRE will help you boost for other things that are lacking in your profile. And instead of spending so much time preparing for GRE, I would suggest that you do more projects, or you do things that help you build your resume, your profile, etc. And I'm kind of still not convinced how GRE helps you boost your profile to the next level for an MS or a PhD. GRE is just like basic English, basic math. So avoid over preparing for this exam. So here's how I did it. So before my GRE, I kept 3 weeks completely free. You can probably give GRE during your summer vacation, summer break, because that's the optimal time. You don't have a lot of things to do, and you can focus your entire energy on the whole GRE thing. And first, you need to start by reviewing all the PDFs that I have shared. So just go through these PDFs really quickly, read about all these math topics really quickly, go through all the formulae, etc. And look at the sample examples that these resources have solved. Now, once you feel that your memory is refreshed, I suggest you start doing or solving all these prep books. So the goal here is that instead of solving question one by one, you should basically make a chunk of 20 questions and try to solve them within 35 minutes. Why? Because that's what you're going to do during your GRE. So whatever section you're solving, pick like the first 20 questions, solve them as a chunk, take like maybe a minute break, solve the next 20 questions, take like 5-10 minutes break, solve the next 20 questions, and so on. So whenever you're doing problems, it's good to to make yourself habitual of the format that's going to be asked in the end. So try to do questions in a chunk of 20 and use the triple scan strategy and see how many you have scored correctly. And as soon as you finish like maybe 2 or 3 sections, you should go to the back of the Manhattan prep book, and you should see if your answers are correct or not. If your answers were not correct, then maybe you should look at the approach that the book actually used and see how your approach matched up to them. If you are completely confused about a particular type of questions or a topic, then maybe you should go back to the prep book, or maybe go to Khan Academy videos, or maybe in a lot of cases read your old high school textbooks, because those can also help you if you are completely blank on a particular topic. Once you feel comfortable with the ordinary questions, I suggest you go to the advanced section of the book and solve some advanced problems. Not that they will be asked in the GRE Quant, but they'll kind of help you build confidence, because if you can do those complex problems, you might also do these easier problems much more quickly, much more efficiently. Once you are able to solve all the problems in the prep book correctly and quickly, I suggest you move to the mock tests. How many mock tests, you might ask? I think 3 to 5 is probably a good number. Some people might even want to do 7 or 8. I think that's completely fine. But anything more is probably an overkill. I think something that's most important here is that you need to do mock tests, at least one mock test a day in the same time duration when your GRE is scheduled to acclimate your body. Remember, it's all about being efficient during the exam date. So the more you acclimatize your body to that time period, whatever it is, like early morning, noon, the better. And then you can do one more mock test during the day, like maybe whatever time works for you. And as your GRE is approaching, it is very, very important that you do maybe 2 or 3 mock tests on subsequent days before your GRE. This will help you a lot. This will also get you used to this whole thing. I hope this video was helpful. If you like my content, you can go and watch other videos from my higher studies prep series. I'm sure you can find a lot of golden nuggets in there. Thank you for watching this video. See you next time.